thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Okay, as the hour is 7 p.m., I will call the meeting to order. Good evening, Exeter. Good evening to my colleagues on the board, respective town staff, and those in attendance, and certainly good evening to those watching from home, and welcome to the May 15th, 2023 Town of Exeter Select Board meeting. I'd like to start by introducing the board. To my right, Selectman Dan Chartrand. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Our Vice Chair, Selectwoman Wally Cowan. Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
Our Clerk, Selectwoman Julie Gilman. Good evening.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Selectwoman Nancy Belanger. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Our Town Manager, Mr. Russ Dean. Good evening.
Good evening.
And our Recording Secretary, Joanna Bartel. Good evening. And my name is Nico Papakostandis. We're going to start with public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody in the public to come up with comment. I don't see anyone here. I do want to look to see if we have anyone online, which we do not, but I believe Selectwoman Gilman has a comment to make.
Yes, I'm going to... Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to give my state report. I think I should do it from up here rather than at the desk,
Okay.
at the table.
Great.
My committee met, municipal and county government met last week, and we went over several bills that affect us. One, SB 78, to do with relative to subdivision regulations and on the completion of improvements, and that has to do with when to release the bonds, what the time frame is. It was a fairly simple bill to make a few changes to. SB 88 was relative to annual dues paid by towns and cities. We increased the amount that we get to budget for from $25 to $50 per association. So nice to have important bills come to us. SB 110 was relative to residency status, and it has to do with welfare being granted to people who don't reside in Exeter but are receiving emergency aid in Exeter, like a hotel room or something like that. And it's trying to, what it does is provides for us to, for us to aid people, but also get recompense from the town they originally come from. So I think it's a good, so there'll be lots more interaction between towns about the work they're doing. And the simple one, relative to the town council, town manager, form of local government, was to give the town council the same authorities as city council, or city council.
Council.
Yeah. All right. And SB 222 had to do with the definition of broadband infrastructure in order to define them as a revenue-producing facility eligible for municipal revenue bonds. Currently, we have lots of money for municipalities to install broadband for their residents, but they have to be recompensed for it in some fashion, so that was a choice. The big one, so those all went through my committee, and some of them are going on the consent calendar, some will be going to the floor on another week. But the two that we recessed to the 24th is SB 132, prohibiting cities and towns from adopting sanctuary policies. This is a bill we've seen several times called anti-sanctuary cities. It's very controversial, has to do with if we want to give authority to our police departments. Well, we have to give authority to our police departments to act as ICE agents or for Homeland Security agents. And there's, they don't want us to, no one is for this bill. I've received personally 200 emails saying, please oppose this bill. I have received no emails saying, please support this bill. And that's just to me directly, not to the whole committee. So, and at the time of the testimony, it was 189 or so opposed to the bill and 100, or 85, I think, in favor. One of the things that it has in the bill is that our police force would have to be trained on how to act as ICE agents. We see it as an unfunded mandate because then we'd have to pay for the training of our police force we don't have any idea what the time frame is. It's not in the bill, so there's no recompense for that. It's just a troublesome bill, and Exeter has had its experience and was brought up during the discussion about what happens when you're wrong. and so it got recessed because we were going back and forth on jumping right into it. So we have a couple of weeks to do more research, and it was interesting that one of the other representatives asked us, how many of you have read the Chapter 8, Section U.S. Code 132, or whichever one, and it was really an inappropriate thing to do, to say, have you done your homework, to the rest of the committee. The other one that was recessed to the 24th is establishing a commission to study the barriers to the density of residential development in New Hampshire. This commission was actually established a couple of years ago, but because of COVID, it never met. And then the deadline for the report passed because that was in the legislation, gave them 2 years to figure it out. So this is really just renewing a commission that was already established. There was some discussion about who was on it, who was on the commission, and originally it included somebody from the Natural Resources, Environment and Natural Resources Conservancy. It wasn't the state one, it was another entity, and the amendment to it cut them out. And many of us thought that was inappropriate because conservation is a very important part of many towns, including Exeter, and is a very important part of a healthy life. And it can, more residences, you need more places for these people to enjoy the out of doors. So that argument went back and forth, and conservation spaces actually kind of force density because you have to leave that land alone, and then where can you build more to get more residential units for the people that need them? Well, everybody needs one sometime. And to have to make that argument in my committee was really disappointing. To say, here's a density tool already. We have open development RSAs about, you can get more density if you give us open space. So there's already tools and we want to have more, and there are plenty of ideas out there about how to have more, and there are several different entities that are looking at how to have more, and we also have the Special Committee on Housing. So there's a lot of confusion over whether we should do this, whether we should include the environmental aspect or the conservation aspect. So it got recessed until the 24th, and I think the arguments are still going to be the same, but somebody's going to do some more research. And then on Thursday, the House is meeting, and there's really relatively simple bills, but the biggest ones are the Parental Bill of Rights and the Medicaid expansion. And we're actually doing rather short lists of bills on the calendars this year. So we're not spending like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the State House. It's more like 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., which is nice because then I can do other things, but it means we're going to meet every week. So, call me with questions, email me. I've heard a lot from people about these particular bills, so I thank you very much. And if you have any questions. Yep.
Terrific. Thank you for the legislative update. Appreciate that. And again, urge folks, if you have any questions or comments, to reach out to Selectwoman and Representative Gilman. Seeing no other public, we'll move on to proclamations and recognitions. We don't have any formal proclamations or recognitions. However, we do have a long-standing volunteer in our community and also a former colleague of ours, former Select Board member who received a prestigious award that I'd like to mention this evening and congratulate Don Clement on receiving the Long Guard Volunteer Award. This is an annual award to an outstanding volunteer within the Gulf watershed who has made significant contributions to conserving or managing the Gulf's resources. Past recipients have been involved in stewardship projects, educational programs, volunteer monitoring, and scientific research. The award is named in memory of Ari Longard, a Nova Scotia resident and devoted conservationist who helped to conceive and launch the Gulf of Maine Council. So congratulations, Don. And thank you for your longstanding service. I know conservation has always been a priority of Don's. We appreciate the ongoing work he does with the Conservation Commission and also the Exeter
Squamscott River.
Thank you.
Local Advisory Committee. Yeah.
Mr. Dean, do we know if there'll be anything more formal to present to Mr. Clement? Maybe we can have him here at a future Select Board meeting if he's willing?
Sure, that's a great idea.
Kristen Murphy?
Yeah, we
Great,
will.
thank you. So Don, I know you're watching tonight. Congratulations. Mr. Chartrand.
We just celebrated our LY Festival this past Saturday, and we'd be remiss not to point out that Don was a leader in removing the dam, which now has made the river more vital and active with those fish going upstream very easily, as opposed to trying to get through a millstock that never worked. So thank you, Don.
Great.
Thanks for your leadership.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the approval of our minutes from our last meeting, which was May 1st, 2023. I'd first ask the board if there are any revisions or amendments to the minutes. And seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of May 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes unanimously, thank you. Regrettably, we have a resignation to consider this evening from the Energy Committee. Elizabeth Stevens has tendered her resignation as she's departing not only the town, but the
Going
country.
sailing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Around the Atlantic.
Very exciting, but we'll miss
I know,
her
but you
work
won't be here.
and thank her for her service. Selectwoman Gilman, did you want to say a word or two?
Oh, it's a very exciting person, energetic person, much like our chair of the committee. Contributed a great deal in communication with the PEA and the high school and our website.
Great.
Really put a lot into it, so I thank her very much.
Yes, thank you, and we'll miss you, and all the best, and safe travels. I would entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Elizabeth Stevens from the Energy Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
And thank you for your service.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again. Moving on to our discussion items, we have David Tovey here this evening, representing Parks and Rec. He's the Assistant Park and Rec Director with an AARP Age-Friendly Community Network application. Dave, you and I spoke about this.
Yes.
Over email. But first, I would like to recognize, I heard that, Mr. Tovey does a lot with our older members of our community. I know you are the leader of many field trips, and I heard recently that you led a field trip that included a meal at a dining area, and one of our members in our community at the last minute was unable to attend. Mr. Tovey secured a meal for this individual, and after bringing everybody back to Exeter on his own, went and delivered this meal to this member of the community that couldn't attend, so thank you.
My pleasure. It's one of the best meals I've had from Pickety Place. If anyone's ever been, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I highly recommend you go. She's lucky I didn't steal it for myself, but I was happy to deliver it. It brought me back to some of my college days when I was a delivery driver.
And I appreciate you deferring the recognition, but again, thank you. And you know,
Yeah.
this is not an isolated story. I mean, your efforts and what you do, particularly for older community, you go above and beyond. We're very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Segueing into your presentation.
Perfectly. All right. So, as many of you know, the department has continued our efforts on improving the age-friendly resources in the community, and we're very eager to continue on those developments. So at our last Rec Advisory Board meeting, the board voted unanimously for us to move forward with the application process to join the AARP network of age-friendly communities and states. This network would be great for us to join. It would serve as a organizing structure for making community improvements. It'd help us foster partnerships among community groups, would provide resources for identifying and assessing community needs. It would gain us access to expert-led webinars and technical assistance from livability professionals, guidance, support, best practices, resources. It would also help leverage the department for grant opportunities, and membership is free. Part of the application process is, as we talked earlier, is a letter of commitment from the jurisdiction's highest elected official. So we're asking the board to support us in our request to move forward with the application process. And if anyone has any other questions on the network itself, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Mr. Tovey?
No, I would like to say, you know, sitting with the, on the senior council was a lot of fun, and the age-friendly community manual, basically, because it's so big, that was produced through that group is really quite informative and easy to read. Gives a lot of information about support services and activities that are going on, either supported by the town or others. So thank you for that work.
Glad to hear that. And we are looking for members to join our resident senior council as well.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
No, it looks like a great resource you found.
Mr. Dean, would you like a motion?
Yes, please.
All right. Dave, and you mentioned you need a letter from me?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I sent you that sample letter.
Okay. And when do you need that by?
At your
Tomorrow?
No rush. Whenever is convenient for you.
I'll do it tomorrow.
The process itself will take some time, and luckily, some of the previous work we've already done, some of the surveys, those will count already. So we're a little bit ahead of the game already too. So
Okay.
I think once we have that letter and complete the application itself, it'll be a pretty smooth transition. I think
Okay.
we can start looking at long-term projects to address some of those needs we saw in the surveys.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I'm very excited for this.
Awesome. Thank you. So are we.
So I would entertain a motion to authorize the Park and Rec Department to proceed with the application process to join AARP's age-friendly network of states and community, and further authorize the Select Board Chair to write and sign corresponding documentation needed for the application.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you again. Mr. Bisson, thank you as well. You can't hide back there. Mr. Dean, before we, or as we get into our next discussion item, which is regarding special town meeting possibility, we have a memo in our packet from Mr. Paul Vlasic, Interim Public Works Director, basically giving us a summary of the Siphon update for the last 2 weeks, and I thought you could run through that. for us?
Sure. The memo is broken up into three pieces, administrative, drilling, and then the site improvements piece. In the administrative end, we have signed change order number 3. That was done on May 3rd, and that locks in pricing for a current drill and a future drill. Then the contractor has submitted documentation for revised drilling equipment, procedures, and alignment. And then the consultant also discussed the SRF funding availability with New Hampshire DES. And the result of that was we could amend our current loan that we have with New Hampshire DES for continued SRF funding.
Okay.
So that's the administrative side. On the drilling side, the drilling began last Tuesday, and there was just enough to set up the gyro location device and pressure gauge. The contractor completed approximately 190 feet of the pilot bore by the end of the week. And the contractor is currently at the rock face and will begin rock drilling, and that was today. The contractor has also hired a mud engineer. That's a specialty item that is required for this project, and added an annular pressure monitor to the drill, allowing the contractor to better track the condition of the borehole, increasing the potential for a successful bore. So we're optimistic that we'll succeed here. Site improvements. The contractor cut 2 10-inch pipelines and moved off-site to the DPW complex. There's a gravel ramp installed over a 12-inch pipeline at the walkway near the gazebo for improved access to the park, to Swayze Park. And then the contractor condensed their construction site to leave space for the farmer's market and access to the gazebo. And so similar housekeeping measures were performed on the mill side of the project.
Is there an estimated time of completion for this first phase?
The estimated time of completion for the first phase is the November, I'm sorry. I would have to get you that date. I believe it's, I don't want to say for sure. I will get you that date.
Thank you. We meet again next Monday, so maybe.
Right.
Okay.
We'll pin that down.
And then, do we have any recommendations yet, or will we, about whether it will be recommended amending the current loan?
So the finance director, Corey Stevens, myself, and assistant town manager Roy are in the midst of putting together a financial plan.
Okay.
And we'll be bringing that to the board next week.
Fantastic.
That's our plan.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Dean?
It's great that they've, done these site improvements and condensed their footprint. As we move into the spring and summer, it's great to have more of Swayze Park available on that side of the river. And of course, it's great to impact the mill less by condensing that footprint as well. So congratulations to the contractor for doing that.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Dean, we talked about possibility of a special town meeting. I'll turn it over to you for recommendation.
So additional funding will be required to finish phase 2 of the Siphons project. We know that. Again, we are in the midst of putting together the financials on that, so I don't want to cite an exact figure tonight. I'd rather wait until the 22nd to bring that forward and the different pieces. But in talking with yourself, Mr. Chair, the special town meeting would be held on July 11th. That would be the first session, the deliberative session, and then the second session would be August 15th. And that's what we're angling to do. There are several steps that we would have to take in order to effectuate this, including probably posting for a bond, a loan, as part of the project. And so this is tonight's recommendation for discussion, and it would require a vote of the board to petition the Superior Court for permission to hold a special town meeting.
How long, and I know we talked before, this could take up to 2 months to get permission from the court. Is that correct?
We're hoping sooner than that. We'll push as hard as we can.
Well, hopes and reality are two different things. I mean, it could go up to 2 months, correct?
I believe so.
Could it go longer?
It hasn't been our experience that that is the case when we've made overtures to the court to petition them for a special town meeting. The experience has been usually they take that kind of a filing and give it a level of priority. So we would hope that because of the nature of this project and the complexity of it and the need for it, that they hopefully would do the same thing here.
Okay.
The deliberative session, that would be at night, correct?
It would be at night, yes.
So we talked through a couple of things. That's a great question. So working through this, as Mr. Dean said, it could take up to 2 months to receive permission from the court. Time is also of the essence because the contractor and subcontractor need to know whether or not the town is going to be willing to fund this. They have other jobs. Ideally, they would complete this sometime in the mid to late fall, completion in late fall. So Mr. Dean and I kind of worked backwards. And, quite frankly, August 15th would probably be towards the latter part of when we'd want to have the second part of town meeting, which would be the election. And we were also looking at when the town clerk was available. And also you were going to check, and I'm assuming you did, with the town moderator.
Yes, in process.
That she is available, so that's still in process. The election, the second part of town meeting has to be 28 days from the deliberative session. So again, working backwards, that's how we came up with the July 11th, keeping in mind that the week before would be the July 4th. People potentially could be traveling. Summertime is going to be difficult anyway with folks in vacations, but we looked at, we don't have, the deliberative session does not have to be on a Saturday. So July 11th, I believe, is a Tuesday evening, Mr. Dean?
Yes.
So we could have that in Town Hall on a weeknight where folks might be more around than on a weekend. And the same is true of August 15th, which is 2 weeks before school starts and a week before the last week of vacation where people could be traveling. So, the timing is not ideal. We talk about this all the time. There's really no good time to ensure that folks will be around to vote. But this seemed to sort of fit the calendar, and it obviously is open to other suggestions and recommendations from the board. So, Mr. Chartrand?
So just to really be clear, so people can put these dates in, July 11th is when we would do the deliberative session under this calendar. And that is the equivalent of what happens at the end of January, beginning of February during a normal town meeting. We get together, we debate the warrant. There'll probably be one article, maybe two.
We think one.
One article, okay. And that's where we debate it, and changes can be made. It could be amended, correct?
Correct.
But we hope not.
Correct.
So that would happen on July 11th under the schedule. And then moving forward, you've got August 15th as the day where people would turn out to the polls to vote on this article.
Correct.
Got it. And the reason we can't wait until after Labor Day, when more people will be in town, is because the contractor needs to know sooner rather than later, so they don't pull out and we incur additional charges having them reset up. So this is like the latest we can kind of do this and not incur those additional charges of them tearing everything down and them setting it back.
And remobilizing, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So that's why we don't want to do it in the summer, but we have to.
We have to.
Because of those additional charges.
Just to your point, I was thinking when we first looked at the calendar, I was thinking maybe mid-September.
Yeah,
Folks are
that would
back
be
in
better.
school. However, after Mr. Vlasic spoke with the contractor and subcontractor, we can't guarantee that we would have them available to actually do the work, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could correct one thing on that. There is a remobilization charge already baked into the estimates that we have, but one of the pivotal pieces of this and getting the vote done in time for September 1st is it's a guarantee of the pricing.
Correct.
That goes along with the project. So that is the contractor holding the pricing for us.
And if we go later than
That could change.
mid-August?
It could change.
Okay. So just one more time, because we want to maximize turnout. July 11th is when we debate this at a deliberative session under this schedule, pending the court approving. And August 15th is when we would vote on this article.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
And one last date, to confuse you, is at our June 26th regular select board meeting. That would also be the public hearing on the proposed warrant article, so that folks would see it.
Similar to the public hearing that happens in mid-January.
Correct.
During regular town meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so everything is kind of analogous here.
Exactly.
It's exactly the same as regular town meeting, except it's not.
Summertime edition.
Summertime. Extra time.
And Mr. Dean, just to be clear, I'm sorry, Selectwoman Belanger, just to be clear too, the proposal, and I know we're not going to get into the financials tonight because we're still working on that, but would it be, to the best of your knowledge, a similar lump sum agreement as the agreement we're under currently? Okay.
It would be.
All right. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. I just wanted to let people know at home that this calendar is in our packet.
Yes.
So if you have any questions, please go to the packet, take a look, and you can email us to ask us for any questions that you have about it, about the schedule.
So, Mr. Chair, again, just to also point out that the process, the order of operation here is that the special town meeting approves the funding, hopefully approves the funding, and then the town would execute another change order for the second phase of the project. And that would be done, the contractor would mobilize again to the project site between October 15 and November 15, if that all works out.
So that'd be change order 4?
Change order 4.
Unless another one comes along before that. Hopefully not.
Please don't.
Hopefully not.
Is our town council aware that we were having this discussion, voting on it, and would be ready to file that motion with the court, like, soon?
Yes, town council actually developed the schedule.
Okay,
at
but
at our request.
they're ready to file that motion?
They're ready to
Yes, they
file.
are.
Thank you, without delay, so we can
Right.
try to keep the schedule.
Right.
Thank you.
And thank you for helping me summarize the dates in order for folks. I also want to remind folks that as of this time, we do not have the number that we'd be requesting, and that the finance team and Mr. Dean and Ms. Roy are still working on that. And we'll have that ready hopefully at our next meeting, or to be determined.
Next meeting is what.
Next meeting is when we'll know.
Our goal.
Okay, but it will be a similar lump sum agreement
Yes.
to this most recent change order. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Then I would entertain a motion to authorize the town manager to authorize town council to petition Superior Court for permission to hold a special town meeting at the town of Exeter as outlined in our statutory timeline memo in our packet, specifically for a July 11th first session and an August 15th second session,
So moved.
2023.
So moved, jumping on there.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we need to state the purpose of the meeting? Or do we, or?
Funding phase 2 of the sewer siphons project.
Do we want to get that specific in the motion if we don't know how many, if there's going to be a subsequent warrant article? We can. I mean, I can.
Well, I just mean, I don't mean the purpose of the particular dollar number. I mean purpose as opposed to having a street fair, you know, something like that.
Supplemental funding for the siphons project.
So do you want to, I can entertain a new motion if you want.
Yes, I will rescind, thank you.
I rescind my second.
Okay. Thank you, Selectwoman Gilman. I would entertain a motion to authorize the town manager to authorize town council to petition the Superior Court for permission to hold a special town meeting in the town of Exeter to address the supplemental phase of the Squamscott Siphon project for a first session of special town meeting to be held July 11, 2023, and the second session of special town meeting under RSA 40:13-26 on August 15th, 2023.
So moved.
And I'll second again.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, next, Mr. Dean, we have a memo regarding the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Grant. You want to speak to that briefly?
Sure. Every year, we get a grant from the New Hampshire DES that helps us offset the cost of our household hazardous waste collection event that we have in October, and so this grant is being put forward at a maximum and up to number of $7,150, and again, we use those funds to offset the cost of the collection.
Seems pretty straightforward. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the state grant of up to $7,150 for the purposes of offsetting costs related to the household hazardous waste collection to be held in October 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a supplement to that.
Okay.
The certificate of authority by vote, we have been getting some pushback lately on these documents.
Okay.
So I would ask that this actually be voted on the certificate of authority. There's a section on the certificate of authority by vote that says voted.
So who,
Right.
are you looking for authority to sign this?
Yes, please. Just so it doesn't get kicked back, hopefully.
Understood.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Before you start,
Yep.
Mr. Chair? So there's a certificate of authority by vote and a certificate of authority by bylaws. What's the difference?
We do not have any bylaws
So that one doesn't pertain to
that
us.
would pertain to contractual obligations.
Okay. So that's why we're doing the by vote. Got it. Thanks.
I would entertain a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the certificate of authority by vote with regard to the grant agreement with the state of New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
So moved. Good.
Yeah.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? And seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a economic development update from our Economic Development Director, Mr. Darren Winham. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. How are you?
You're well. How are you?
I am good. I have to move this around a little bit. You record speed today on that first item. I thought it was going to be a long time. I told my developers that I'd come in to a quarter up to 8 o'clock, so, but I just called them and said, come in now for the next items. So I don't want to belabor, as I know I've given you guys reports before, and I don't want to go over stuff you've already heard and the town's already heard, so I'm trying to stick to just mostly new stuff. So if you have any questions, just jump in. Really good news with CA Design, a company that makes military aircraft parts, purchased Osram's Building B at 131 Portsmouth Avenue. CA Design Incorporated received site plan approval in April for a 40,000 square foot addition, and the addition will expand the building B, to 115,000 square feet. They're investing $35 million. Number 22 and number 24 Continental Drive, both parcels are just over 20 acres. 24 Continental is a pre-permitted for a 116,000 square foot building. Many companies have kicked the tires on these properties, including several as we speak, but as yet, no one has pulled the trigger. One company is considering combining the parcels and building a 300 to 500 square foot facility, and they're still in the mix. 85 Epping Road, which is Mr. Felder's parcel. There's a bank that wants to go on that site, and we have a P&S in place, so that looks pretty good. I think that's going to happen. And they're also working on the financials now of removing the contamination that existed. They could have, it was capped and they could have left it there, but the owner of it says he wants it all out. And so he's going to recycle it, which is good news. The business outreach program that you're all familiar with is still ongoing. Whenever something's of note, I send it out to all the businesses in Exeter. Mr. Carlisle's property, there is a brewery that has some person to sale with Mr. Carlisle, and we know we're in legal imbroglio with Mr. Shaftmaster. Hopefully that clears up sometime soon and we can build a road and get a business up there. Gateway at Exeter, everybody's seen that we're moving dirt at this point. It looks like Tom is going to receive that $3 million from Invest NH. And I talked to him 10 minutes ago. It's looking pretty good. So he's moving ahead. Travel and Nature had moved to Lincoln Street, and they're...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So Invest NH, can you explain exactly what that is?
So Invest NH is a program that they took $50 million, really 60, and they put it to developers that are developing workforce housing, a certain percentage workforce housing. And 10 million of that 60 million went to NHA, New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. I'm looking at you. I knew you were going to say something. So. But anyway, so they got $10 million, and then the towns got some money too. Some for planning, and some for. We're hoping we applied for $560,000, which would be used for anything you guys want. It would be. It's not tied to anything. It's because we're being called a community of the willing, which means we're willing to work with developers that are willing to do workforce housing, and so that is a $10,000 per unit. Amount of money you get, and so we have 56 units, so thus we put in for $560,000. So I'm hoping we get that.
So it's money that's coming from the state.
Yep.
That originally came from the federal government.
Exactly right.
Thank you.
Exactly right. And we've had that application in for more than 6 months now, but we can't receive that money until Tom Monahan, the Gateway Project, gets their final building approvals, their permits. Okay. Travel and Nature is happy they're on Lincoln Street now. The building that they came from it's unbelievable how much he's put into that building. It's going to look completely different inside and outside. I know he's spoken to you, Julie, about he's going to have to go back to the HTC because they want to move that awning on the front of that building, which I think will make it look even more historic. So those two things are happening. 140 Epping Road, there's a Ninja Warrior gym that's going to go in there and hopes to open June 4th. That's the former Palmerston Car building. You guys are aware of that building? I was just over at the IOKA with Dave Cowie, and it blew my mind. He's going to offer you guys a tour. Definitely take it, because it's amazing what he's doing. I had no idea it was that far back into the water, and he's putting a deck all the way across the back of it. You can see, if you're on the library side, you can see the girders coming out. It's so much bigger and better than I thought it was going to be. So I'm really excited about that property. We waited a long time for that, and so that finally coming through. It's wonderful news. Fat Hen Brewing is looking for sites in Exeter. They're mostly looking now at the commercial spot in front of the Gateway Project. They're looking to go in there, but they wanted to get on the market before that, and so I introduced them to the folks at the rinks, and I don't know if they've pulled the deal off yet, but they're trying to go open there for a 1-barrel system, and then go to a 10-barrel system when they go into the commercial building in front of the Gateway. 23 Water Street, Elliot called me up and said, stop work on the park, I'm going to build a building. And so I talked to him today and asked him when. He's like, not sure yet, but he says he's definitely going to move ahead with a building on that site. So we'll see you next week. Glare-ups, the 90,000 square foot building that received full approval. That's the building on Continental Drive. The property out there is not owned by Tom Monahan, basically. And so they bought the property, then they went to move ahead, got all their approvals, and they went dark on us. And so Dave, Doug, and I have been trying to get a hold of them. Finally talked to them today, and they gave me the good or bad news, however you look at it, that the site work costs were so much higher than they anticipated it to be that it drove their cost to over $500 a square foot. And they said for a warehouse, they just can't do it. It doesn't make sense to them. And so they put it on the market for $1.895 million for that site. And I do have somebody that's looking at it that is very interested in it, so we'll see. 1 Cronin Road, that is the parcel by the Mobile on the Run that that's a state surplus. I know who's going there, but I'm not allowed to say yet, but it's a use you would expect. So it's a good use you would expect. Big Bean, I'm not sure when they're going to open, but they're doing their work now, and that's going to be a very popular one. Sorry to put the glasses back and forth. I'm just getting
I'm
old.
sorry, Darren, what was that you just said?
The Big Bean. It's going where the tavern was. It used to be just like a breakfast and lunch place.
Okay,
Now they
thank
do
you.
all. They're really great.
All right,
They're in Newmarket and Durham. Yes, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, right. So 100 Domain, Torrington Properties purchased that property. I said this before, but I just want you to know that they're looking at adding 60,000 square feet. Yeah, 60,000 square feet. That's 100 Domain Drive. So that would be a very nice investment, and there's plenty of space to do it out there. 17 Industrial Drive, which is in the sort of across the street from SIG, if you will. Epic Prep owns that, and it's a distribution facility for selling products to Amazon, Walmart, et cetera. And just putting this out there, he needs workers. So if anybody's looking for work, call me. And you want to work in a warehouse, try forklifts. I just explained Invest in H. 2 Center Street, the former Masao Group left, and there's a couple different uses in there, and I'll get to that in a second. One of them is Art by Alyssa, and I'll talk about another one in just a second. I don't think some of you are aware, but the Seacoast Economic Development Stakeholders and the Collaborative Economic Development Regions group received some money from the Business and Economic Affairs Office. So you need to come doing it, just like you said, everyone. And we received monies, and we're putting that towards Soho Creative. It's a Portsmouth company that is creating tools for businesses to hire and retain workers. Hire workers and retain workers. And we're going to have that product out there. It's going to be a free product to anybody in the Seacoast. And that should be done in about 2 months. 164 Epping Road, optometrist Sarah Hudson will be opening in the former Exeter Decorating Building. The Remax Exeter building on the corner, right across the street here, I'll just say it went out. It went out because it went out. And there's people looking at it now. There's furniture in there, so I don't know. I don't know if somebody, I'm trying to get a hold of the owners to find out if something actually rented it yet, but that's definitely a key location. I mean, a lot of people would like that location. There's a yearbook studio company that's on the Seacoast that's looking at going into Gateway. 173/179 Water Street, the Smith Building. You're going to hear an 79E application from them tonight. They're investing $880,000. At some point, we might want to have a discussion about 79E, about if we want to continue the way we're doing it, if we want to, I have a couple ideas that I'm going to pitch to you guys and throw it out there and just see what you think, because I know there's been some pushback. Flamingo's Coffee Bar is open on Lincoln Street, 56 Lincoln Street, where 7 North used to be. I met some friends at Trackside on Saturday morning, and Flamingo's was jamming. It was really, this is awesome. Monster Gas, I have a local person that wants to dabble. He's a insurance salesman, and he wants to possibly buy part or all of that building and add money to it and make it look nicer and operate better. Donut Love, the Goodwin Family Management, the owners of Friendly Toast, will reopen Comfort Baking Company into Donut Love and branch from there. New England Mercantile Home, that's Crafted New England, is expanding and opening as New England Mercantile Home at 154 Water Street, where the Messiah Group used to be. They'll sell a selection of home decor, furniture, textiles, and an array of other home goods. 97 Lincoln Street, which is right next to the VFW. I have a florist client that is considering opening that location, and then I just made a note at the end of the report that says, I've been inundated lately with businesses, mostly retail and restaurants, that want to either relocate or expand into Exeter, and we're victims of our own success at this point because I really don't have a lot of space left. So that's my report, and I apologize. I had told both these guys to be here. I thought you were going to be a lot longer. That's on me. So I'm happy to present the 279Es, and then they'll just filter in.
Before you go, can I
Sure, please.
ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So the Housing Advisory Committee, I'll give this part of it. We are expecting reports on 79E numbers. Darren comes to our Housing Advisory Committee meetings. And the other exemptions, it's one of the things that has not been checked off our report list. So once we get those numbers, I was going to ask the board if we wanted to have a discussion. So we'll try to tie that all in together, Darren?
That's a great idea.
Okay.
And I think that makes sense, because I would like to have Mr. Wyndham come back to discuss this further.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so should I jump right into
Just make sure everyone
building? I'm sorry?
I just want to make sure there are no other questions,
Okay, I'm
because that was a
sorry.
very thorough report.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. My comment is I really wish we could find space for other food establishments because
You mean restaurants or
Yeah.
for? Okay.
yes.
Tell me where. I have a live wire right now that, boy, oh boy, I want them. They do really well where they are. I really want them, but I just don't have, they want to be downtown. That's the challenge. I keep trying to get people out on Epping Road, you know?
Yeah, we want them downtown.
I just don't have any space.
I know.
Yeah.
Anything down? Comments?
No, it was very thorough.
Okay.
It's everything I know and more,
Nico,
as it should be.
Nico said, be thorough, go slow, and don't use acronyms. So,
Thank you.
Well, you got 2 out of the 3.
yeah.
Yeah, you
I
got
went too
to.
fast. Did I go too fast?
Oh, good.
Can I
Okay,
make
so
a
the,
rec-
oh, that's
Can I make a recommendation
Please.
for your next report?
I'm sorry?
Can I make a
Please.
recommendation, another recommendation for your
yeah.
next report? You throw a lot of addresses at us, but they're very scattered throughout your report. Can it be possible to like
Walk
do
'em
all
like
of
a
Epping
path.
Road? Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Easier done than said.
Excellent. So are you going to present the 2?
So generally what happens is I present,
Yeah.
I basically read the memo so the public
Yeah.
can hear it.
Yeah.
And then you guys, if you have any
Yeah.
questions for them,
Yep.
yeah.
And it is a
So
public
I was
hearing.
just going to say, we need to open the public hearing first. I know,
Okay.
I'll let you take a breath and,
Okay. Sorry, man.
okay. I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing on the granting of a 79E tax relief to 173, 179 Water Street in Exeter or the Smith Building.
So moved.
I'll second. So go ahead, Julie.
I'll second.
So motion and a second by Selectwoman Gilman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is open for when everyone returns.
They're all the students.
Well, the public hearing is open, Mr. Wyndham, so
Okay.
go right ahead, please.
Oop. We'll start with the Smith Building. Okay. Okay, so Jones and Wilson Realty LLC, owner of 173 to 177 Water Street, AKA the Smith Building, is requesting from the town of Exeter consideration for the Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive, RSA 79E. Endorsed, please find, enclosed, please find Jones and Wilson's Realty LLC's application, received in completed form on March 24th, 2023. According to the application process outlined on the town website, the Economic Development Department receives the application for review. Upon review, the application appears complete as it details the cost of rehabilitation, which totals $880,000, which meets the 15% of the assessed valuation requirement set forth in Section 2, as the current law is assessed at $1.626 million. The application outlines the public benefits the application feels are being achieved as addressed in Section 7. And of course, anybody in the public wants to see that, it's right in the packet. So what we do now is we hold a public hearing. After the hearing, the Select Board determines if one or more of the public benefits listed in Section 7 have been met. If the Select Board determines that one or more of the public benefits have been met, then they must decide the period of tax relief to be granted. In this case, it could be anywhere between 1 to 11 years. That begins when substantial rehabilitation is complete. If tax relief is granted, the Select Board should determine the length of the covenant to protect the public benefits identified. At a minimum, the covenant needs to run as long as the tax relief period, but can be increased up to twice the length of the tax period. We've to date only done that length. We've never gone more than just whatever length of the award. The covenant should be reviewed by our legal counsel at the applicant's expense, so I'd recommend that any motion to grant tax relief includes this requirement. And for the public's benefit, the RSA legislation is in the packet. The reference map to the 79E district areas is in there. Jones and Wilson's application is in there. The budget's in there. National Register of Historic Places nomination form, as the Smith Building is in that. And then there's a plan set. So that's what I have for you. If you have any questions for me, and Mr. Jones can answer any other questions specific to the project if you like.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just a quick point, just to remind everybody involved with the process is that no later than 45 days after the public hearing, the governing body shall render a decision granting or denying the requested tax relief, and if so, granting, establishing the tax relief period. So that's not an obligation that you have this evening. It just has to be done at least 45, not later than 45 days after the hearing.
Understood. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Let's start with the board. Any questions or?
Do you mind if I kick off, Mr. Chair?
Please.
So for the applicants, could you just kind of run down and when we say the Smith Building, we're talking about the building that housed the Five and Dime, right?
Woolworth?
The Woolworths, right. Right, we need you.
If you could step up to the microphone and just identify yourself for the record.
So the Smith Building is the building that had Woolworths in it?
Yes. I'm Kevin Jones,
Historical.
Jones and Wilson Realty. Yes, the Smith Building is the former Woolworth building. It was the large George and Phillips space. Krypton Comics, George and Phillips now moved to a smaller space, and we have reconfigured the old large George and Phillips space.
So, thank you for clarifying that. So you're spending a lot of money, roughly half the valuation, can you detail what you're doing with that money?
We have already, in rough numbers, the old George and Phillips space was 12,000 square feet of retail space. We took the front 2,000 right on Water Street and created a third retail space, or to take the place of what George and Phillips was. That's now has been leased out to a retail tenant. He's going to be opening up sometime in July. The remaining 10,000 square feet, the planning board approved for us 7 residential apartments. In addition to that, I don't know if you are all familiar with the property, and there's an underground, for lack of a better term, parking area back there. We are also going to be enclosing that and creating 14 parking spaces, 12 underneath and 2 kind of in the little grassy area that's right in the rear of the space.
So just to clarify, the part of the building that actually had open space with metal pylons supporting it?
Correct.
That's going to be enclosed, parking is going to be put there?
Correct.
And that's going to be expanded slightly so there can be additional parking provided?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, on our current footprint.
Now, you've been doing some work on the brick facade facing the river.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, I don't know how many openings are actually there, but there's probably a dozen openings that we have cut into the building, and all of those are going to be residential style windows that are going to go into that building.
So that's the residential space?
That's the residential space.
And you're
correct.
creating views of the river, basically?
Correct. Correct.
So that's kind of the big things that you're spending that $880,000 on?
Well, yes, that's a big piece of it for sure, but obviously it's a wide open space, so 7 apartments with all the mechanicals and plumbing and heating and AC and everything else in there. So there's there wasn't any of that.
So you're taking raw retail space?
Correct.
And turning it into residential?
Correct.
And that's a big chunk of the $880,000 as well?
Yes.
That's awesome. Thanks for detailing that for us.
Selectman Cohen, any questions or comments? No. Selectman Gilman.
My only comment is actually for our Economic Development Director. When a property is in a historic district, does not mean it's qualified to be listed on the National Register. It's a contributing resource.
Okay.
But it wasn't ever individually determined to be.
It was on that big list?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, it's a qualifying structure as far as the application is concerned, but it's not individually listed as a
Exactly right.
resource.
Selectman Bland?
The rentals will be market rate, correct?
Correct.
And correct me, I was trying to remember driving here tonight, is the 2 outside parking spaces, is that still something that has to come to the board because of the right-of-way? Or am I confusing that with another project?
No,
Then I'm confusing it with another project, you're fine. Thank you. I sit on the planning board too, so, thank you.
And the parking spaces are going to be for the residential?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thoughts of the board?
I think that there's going to be a lot of public good with this project. And I have no problem with agreeing to it. It's just a matter of how long we want to go for.
That's the next discussion.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
You want me to weigh in first?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead first?
First of all, just historically, I served on the Economic Development Commission when we made the push for the town to adopt 79E. Darren was instrumental in that push as well, as right as he came on board as our Economic Development Director. And from my point of view, going back to that very close history, this is exactly the kind of thing that we were hoping for when we pushed to have the town adopt 79E. We wanted to take buildings that were being used in ways that were relatively inefficient and for them to be used more efficiently. Now, we have a residential unit shortage, like the rest of the state, or at least the rest of the Seacoast, and these folks are putting in residential units in the downtown, where we already have all the water and sewer. The town doesn't need to do anything to generate this additional, residential population in our downtown, which is one of the stated goals of our master plan. So for me, this project is tailor-made for 79E, looking back roughly 10 years to when we were considering adopting that. And I would urge the board to go longer with the tax relief rather than shorter. I don't think we want to have a reputation short-arming tax relief under 79E for such a great project as this, if we want to encourage other developers to look at downtown Exeter and take space that's being used less efficiently and use it more efficiently. The value of that building is going to increase, giving them 7 years relief, and then after that 7 years, the taxes are collected as every other property is. Makes complete sense. It's going to be a huge win for the tax rolls in 7 years, or whatever number we decide on. And so this is exactly what we were hoping for when we pushed the town to adopt 79E.
Thank you.
Yep.
Selectman Gilman, did you have a thought?
I know we've been talking informally about our past experiences with these, and maybe we've extended the relief too long. It's a tough call, to balance the development with the rest of the taxpayers, but I'm feeling like the broad disbursement of the difference in the tax relief is really not felt. But it will be felt. It felt more when the property's improved and the assessed value increases. So there's a basic 5 years. It starts at 5 years, and I would add the 2 years for adding residential units. And I think that's where I stop.
So that puts you at 7?
Yep.
You agree?
compelled by both of your assessments here. I mean, I agree. I think we need housing units desperately. I have this vision of that stretch of river as vibrant and usable and, not like a parking alley. And I can sort of see and this isn't really anything to do with this proposal, but I feel like I will make the argument to myself that having the parking enclosed makes it look more community and less sort of like alley parking lot.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I will make that, yes. So I think like this hits something that is important to me as well.
Yeah, the HDC saw a great deal of improvement, sensitive improvement to the building when we had the application in front of us. So
yeah,
I mean, when you look at the impact that the mill had, and obviously the scale there is much greater, but you're taking the kind of impact that the mill had and you're moving it to the other side. I mean, there's been residential development all along, but I can't think of any, well, with the exception of the IOKA, which we'll get to later, I can't think of any building that's added 14 units onto this side of the river in the downtown. I mean, that's a tremendous impact.
it's 7.
it's 7. Yeah.
Oh, it's seven,
14
I'm sorry.
parking
14 parking spaces, 7 units.
For the 7.
Yeah,
It's still,
okay.
it's
Sorry,
still a good number.
I flipped those numbers. But I mean, that's a significant impact. 7 units is a significant impact. And I don't think there's any other, well, the Pearpoint building probably did that when Elliot Berkowitz and Nancy Phillips developed the Pearpoint building.
Yeah.
But it's the steady drumbeat of residential units in the downtown, it is part of what is making our downtown so vital. And it's why Darren has a shortage of spaces for restaurants, for instance. It makes a business like mine more vital. So it's just, it really is, I can't say this enough, it's exactly what we were hoping for when we encouraged the town to adopt the 79E statute. The other thing that I failed to mention earlier was that putting in improvements that are half of the existing valuation, that's a tremendous percentage. We've had applications come before this board when I was on it 5 years ago that were a fraction of that. And we considered them seriously. Some of them we did, some of them we didn't. But roughly 50% of the value of the building is going in improvements. And that shows a tremendous commitment by the developers. So.
What business is going in there?
The retail tenant asked, we did not tell him.
Understood.
Something we'll be excited about.
I think it's a good fit for my home.
Fair enough.
There's not another one downtown.
Well, there you go.
Okay,
Not
that's
a
good.
chocolate factory.
Well, one other thing to remember is that, I want to say not long ago, but actually it was decades, zoning in Exeter prohibited housing in the second floor of the downtown. And we were and most towns in New Hampshire, for some reason, thought that was a good idea. And so downtown was just business and just commercial. And Exeter was one of the first towns to do away with that and let it become a mixed-use experience that it should be. It was historically.
My turn?
Please.
Can I? Okay. So I was on the board when we talked about 79E, or what was it, 15, 16, whenever it was. Anyway, so my only concern now is that it was an experiment then. We were excited about it. We wanted to see if we could get some interest in the IOKA building that had been sitting vacant for a long time. What we now, I think, need to at least know is the cost to the taxpayers, what we're giving away for those 5, 7, whatever years. And that is why I'm hoping we can delay the vote until we can get those numbers to the board, so at least we're making an informed decision as far as the money part of it goes, the tax relief part. And thank you for the work you're doing. I mean, I do appreciate it, and I've grown up here, so it's nice to see something happening with that. I just want to think it's important that we take that into consideration for the tax, people paying their taxes and the cost associated with it.
You don't have any information on that?
I don't, that's what we're doing now, is we're gathering it, like she was saying.
Yeah.
It's just that, can I just throw an opinion?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, we've made the decision and each time and at the meeting if we can, and the reason is because he needs to know when he can start swinging hammers. He's already doing it. And so we wouldn't want to punish somebody who's investing this much money. You know what I mean? I would think that's my opinion, but yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. Then I would have hoped we could have gotten those numbers from Janet for this meeting then, instead of waiting for I did not know this was coming up. When we talked about having Janet come to the next Housing Advisory Committee meeting, so that's a little bit of I'm sorry to hear that wasn't brought up. I don't know. I just think it's important to the town that we make a decision, knowing the numbers. I mean, whether it's up to the rest of you, I just would have liked to have had that information.
Mr. Dean, how long would it take to get that information from Janet?
I'd have to check on that. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but hopefully not very long.
A week?
Yeah.
A day? 2 days?
Yeah,
a week?
I think a week would be good.
Mr. Chartrand?
Part of the problem with, you would be estimating what the valuation would be at the end of the development. And you probably have an estimate of that, but in the end, the town determines that, right? So it would be a ballpark figure.
Right.
It wouldn't be exact.
Well, it would be something, though.
But it would be an estimate of the new valuation of the building times the tax rate.
Right, and that's what she was going to pull together for the Housing Advisory Committee. She was going to do an analysis. She was going to have a month to do that.
For this project?
For the projects in general. Yes. I mean, until I get the report, I can't really answer that question. She knew what we were looking for. We were trying to quantify. Our town planner said, and he made a really good point, that we need to quantify these decisions. And we were at a point where we felt we could at least look at that, and what was one of the Housing Advisory Committee recommendations was to quantify our exemptions and other things like that.
Got it.
So it's a Housing Advisory Committee. What the rest of the board feels is obviously up to you. I would have liked to have had those numbers for tonight. Just to at least have it, whether it's anybody else deems it relevant, I guess, is secondary at this point. I just thought it would be a good thing to know what our decisions are doing financially.
Well, we have 45 days.
So, and
under the law.
I appreciate your point about, they're ready to get to work.
Yes.
Oh, no, I didn't make
Yeah, Karen.
Mr. Wenham. Typically, we meet every other week. We're meeting next Monday. And that's why I asked Mr. Dean if he can have this information for next Monday.
Yes, and I just did this, and I'm going by the application that the applicant submitted. The estimated project cost, as I see it, is $880,000. I'm quoting the number correctly. So if you froze the taxes on that number, you would be talking about roughly $22,000 a year in taxes that you would be foregoing.
And that's a ballpark.
It's an estimate, yes. It's always an estimate until it's complete.
So annually, somewhere north of, a little north of $20,000. And that's everything? School side, town side?
That's at the current full tax rate.
Right.
So after 7 years, that's about $154,000.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's probably
doing that math.
Probably be a similar estimate that we'd get in a week from Janet.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If I trust that, I'm not.
Again, I'm going by the application that was submitted as part of the project.
Yeah.
So the number is as good as it's going to be.
And the reason to do this, of course, is because it's fitting the definition in the statute.
Absolutely agree, Dan.
Well, no,
I just
no, let
wanted
me
the
just
numbers.
finish, though. It's fitting the definition in the statute, and we are rewarding this developer for putting this money into our downtown and saying we think it's such a great project that we want to commit our town's resources to it as well. That's the whole point. It's not that we're giving it away. We're basically saying this is in our interest for this to happen, and therefore, let's do it. Now, the fact that he's already committed to it, he shouldn't be penalized for that.
Yeah, and of course, I agree with you 100%. My only point was because the Housing Advisory Committee is doing their checklist and the recommendations, and we were getting those numbers, I thought it might be at least of value to know what the value is.
Absolutely.
It's not a giveaway, but it is something that we are giving away. It's, you can say it's not a giveaway.
It's an investment.
It absolutely is, but smart decisions, informed decisions, that's where I was going.
Yeah, no,
with
you
that.
and I are in sync.
Okay, great.
We're in sync on this.
So I think we can move forward this evening unless I misunderstood.
No,
but I
thank you.
do think moving forward, Mr. Dean, if
Yes.
that could be part of our memo moving forward on 79E requests. It is valuable data. It is an investment. Some folks in town might see it as a giveaway. No, everyone
Yeah, no.
has an opinion. So I think that if we have that data as part of our packet moving forward, okay, great. So we're ready to take this up.
Absolutely.
I heard 7 years from one select board member.
I agreed.
Do we need to close the public hearing before we take it up?
Yes.
Yep. So I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the 79E request for tax relief on 173 to 179 Water Street.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is closed. We have 7 years as a suggestion on the table.
I mean, yeah, when I did when I ticked through everything in there, so Julie, the public benefit would be,
I think it's 1,
It's
2A,
79E7.
3, and 4.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead again.
Have you found the?
I haven't
page?
found it, no.
Okay.
It's
Why
on
don't
page 4 of the application.
Why don't I make the motion?
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move to approve application for 173 to 179 Water Street tax relief under 79E for public that qualifies under the following public benefits. 1, it enhances the economic vitality of the downtown. 2A, it promotes the preservation and reuse of existing building stock throughout a municipality by the rehabilitation of historic structures, thereby conserving the embedded energy in the accordance with the energy efficiency guidelines established by the U.S. Secretary of Interior Standards of Rehabilitation. 3, it promotes the development of municipal centers, providing the efficiency, safety, and greater sense of community consistent with RSA 9B. And 4, it increases residential housing in urban town centers. I further move the covenants required under Section 79E to run with the relief period, and that relief period shall be 7 years. The covenant must be reviewed by town council prior to completion of the application.
Second.
Did I cover everything?
At the applicant's expense.
Okay. I will amend it to say the covenant will be reviewed by town council at the applicant's expense.
And I will second the amended version.
Okay, so we have a motion from Selectwoman McGillis, second by Selectwoman Belanger. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. We are looking forward to it and looking forward to the surprise.
Yes, we are. Can you do that now?
Okay. This time I would entertain a motion to open
Thank you.
public hearing on the extension of 79E tax relief to 55 Water Street, known as the IOKA building.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, a second, in discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is open. Mr. Wyndham?
Yes, good evening. IOKA Properties LLC owner at 53 to 55 Water Street is requesting from the town of Exeter consideration for the Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive, RSA 79E. In your packet, I put the IOKA Properties LLC application received in completed form on March 11th, 2021. According to you probably don't even go through the application process again. Don't need to go through all that. You already started. Okay, good. The amount of money these gentlemen are putting into it, and this is David Cowie and Jay Caswell, the owners, and is $4.475 or $4.476 million. So the value of the lot right now is assessed at $590,000. So if Dan, you liked that one before.
We have multipliers now.
Yeah, exactly. And so what they're looking to do is, because the costs have gone up, because you had the COVID, because you had the supply chain issues, they couldn't get steel, and so it's obviously drove the project to go longer than it otherwise would. And so that's why they're requesting what they're requesting.
No members of the public here, so any questions or comments of the applicants?
Just an off the cuff one. From the planning board perspective, wasn't one of the delays the getting permission from?
DES?
Yes.
Yes, right, yeah.
Thank you.
If you guys have a second, you really ought to talk to these guys. They can tell you what they're doing. It's outstanding. So,
Come on up. And just, thank you.
Co-owner of IOKA Properties and Jay Caswell, my business partner. We do appreciate you hearing us this evening. We are pleased to say that we're strongly underway now with the steel arrived about a month ago, is in place, so now the project's really rolling. Happy to answer any questions, specific questions you've got.
Any questions?
Yes, I was going to say, you're really going to offer us a tour? I would love to see it.
We'd be happy to walk you through the building. Up until about a couple months ago, there wasn't much to see, but now there's a lot to see.
I'm trying to find that myself.
you guys like a refresher on what's
What are you looking for?
No, I want a refresher
trying
on
to
what's
refresh
already been
what we
granted,
approved
the number of years.
9 years.
9 years? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And you're just looking for an extension?
Looking for an extension on the completion date. We're really mired with delays throughout the project, most of which are COVID-related, workforce delays, material delays, and obviously the cost escalations we budgeted. At the beginning, the Army Corps of Engineers was involved, so getting permits for the Army Corps of Engineers was a battle.
So this is a different approval than the one we just did, because they've already been approved for
This is an
79.
extension, correct.
Yeah.
We'd like to think we'll get the project completed before 2 years, but we'd like to request 2 years, so we would not have to come back.
So So 2 years in addition, I'm sorry, 2 years in addition to the 9 that's already been.
No, 2 years for, there's a project completion date was 2
Understood.
years.
Okay.
From the time it was approved. We didn't get our building permit until late that year, so probably November time we got the building permit, but we also had to wait for the other permits for the state and Army Corps of Engineers, so it took us a while to get going.
And then you had,
Yeah. And also working on the river, we could only work on the river during the summer months when the water's down, so.
I have no, well, I have no problem extending the period. I mean, the completion date.
Right.
That's kind of a no-brainer, I have to say, because of the situations that you've had to experience.
We appreciate it.
Any thoughts?
No, I'm fine.
I'm in favor of
It was
that.
already approved, so.
Selectwoman Gilman, you take a,
First, we have to close the public hearing.
right.
I move to close the public hearing on the 79E request for 53 to 55 Water Street, the Mayor Building.
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Public hearing's closed.
Mr. Chair, I move to extend the expected project completion date for the 53 to 55 Water Street building, the Mayor Building that we have previously approved for tax relief under 79E. The expected completion date was then, sorry, am I making a motion?
Yes.
Did I already start? I'm making it too long. Sorry, I started wandering. I move to approve an extension of the November 2022 expected completion date 2 years for the 79E relief on the Mayor Building at 53 to 55 Water Street.
I'll second that.
Joanna, did you get that?
Well, I withdrew all the crap I said before the last one.
Okay.
Do we need, the actual date, though? The original was November 2022? Are we extending it to November 2024, or we're extending it from the
I think
day
you're going to hear from our economic development director.
You said it there.
Okay, I want to.
The estimated completion date was June of this year, so it would be
Thank
2
you.
years from June 30th.
So it'd be
this year,
June
June 30th, 2025.
Thank you.
I'm going to withdraw my motion so we can make it cleaner. So June 30th.
You withdraw the second?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
I was just going by the expected project completion date that was on the application, so. Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the request for an extension of the project completion date for the 79E tax relief application for the Mayor Building at 53 to 55 Water Street, extension to end on June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
And we're excited to see it.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, you're up.
All right, well, I have to scroll through a lot of stuff. All right, we're going to be going through a whole long list. I think that I will group them by the owner's name. I have to do every lot number.
What do we have on the back?
so-
Just those two. Oh, you've got it on there.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to scroll. I have to do it on my computer because the type is so small.
Yep.
Oh, I went too far.
Mr. Chair, it may also be a good time to vote to approve the tax warrant for starters on this. It's the
28
big-
million.
The big number at the beginning.
Sorry, I scrolled too far.
There's also an elderly exemption. That's
Yeah. Here we go.
There you go.
All right. I move to approve the warrant for the 2023 first tax bill in the amount of $28,601,655.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
I move to deny the application for an elderly exemption at MAP 90, Lot 11 in the amount for the tax year 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. This is going to take a while. I move to approve a tax exemption for MAP 63, Lot 8 in the amount of $172,600 for charitable exemption.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve a charitable tax exemption in the amount for MAP 35, Lot 4 in the amount of $363,200.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 80, Lot 18, Unit E, in the amount of $7,167,700.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have to recuse myself on these.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 4-0 with Mr. Chartrand recusing himself.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 97, Lot 23, Unit E, the amount of $10,852,500.
Second.
Another recusal.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? It's 4-0 with Mr. Chartrand recusing himself.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 98, Lot 37, Unit E, in the amount of $6,666,100.
Second.
One more recusal.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 4-0 with Mr. Chartrand recusing.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 55, Lot 61, Unit 6, in the amount of $130,200.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 55, Lot 61, Unit 10, in the amount of $70,800.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 55, Lot 61, Unit 11, in the amount of $57,300.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 55, Lot 61, Unit 12, in the amount of $85,300.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 55, Lot 61, Unit 13, in the amount of $72,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 86, Lot 8, Unit 1, in the amount of $179,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 86, Lot 8, Unit 2, in the amount of $178,400.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 87, Lot 36, Unit E, in the amount of $389,700.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 65, Lot 146, in the amount of $1,670,500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
Okay. I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 72, Lot 9, the amount of $582,800.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
Move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 73, Lot 292, in the amount of $517,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve charitable exemption for MAP 72, Lot 206, in the amount of $50,300.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 72, Lot 215, in the amount of $389,500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 65, Lot 129, in the amount of $7,196,500.
Second. Oh, wait a minute. Which one?
Joanna?
Oh, Unit 1, MAP 65, Lot 129, Unit 1. Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Joanna.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 65, Lot 128, in the amount of $36,700.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve, my thing didn't scroll, okay. Charitable exemption for MAP 65, Lot 130, in the amount of $10,380,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve a tax exemption for MAP 65, Lot 131, in the amount of $41,962,200.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
The next one is a charitable exemption of zero. Is that, well, I'll just go with it. I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 71, Lot 47, Unit 1, in the amount of $0.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 65, Lot 131, Unit 3, in the amount of $1,216,100.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve a charitable exemption for MAP 71, Lot 48, Unit E, in the amount of $64,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve an educational tax exemption for MAP 71, Lot 119, Unit 1, in the amount of $199,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve an educational tax credit for, tax exemption, sorry, for Lot 71, MAP 71, Lot 119, Unit 1E, the amount of $40,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's unanimous.
I move to approve an educational tax exemption for MAP 62, Lot 112, in the amount of $2,729,700.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 108, Lot 1, in the amount of $191,800.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Before you go to that,
Yes.
I'm looking at her screen because my pages are missing on those, so I have to look at the numbers to know what I'm seconding, so, yes, you're fine.
Okay.
Nico kept looking at me like wondering what I was doing, so, sorry to interrupt. Go.
Okay. I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 64, Lot 41, Unit E, in the amount of $2,291,300.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve educational exemption for MAP 64, Lot 42, in the amount of $762,500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 64, Lot 43, in the amount of $1,125,900.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 64, Lot 46, in the amount of $1,007,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 71, Lot 119, Unit E, in the amount of $5,102,100.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve, and just so folks know, these have been some merged lots, so it sounds big, but it looks different than it seems. Anyway, I move to approve a tax exemption for MAP 72, Lot 169, Unit E, in the amount of $21,362,900.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 72, Lot 204, Unit 1E, in the amount of $414,200.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve educational exemption for MAP 72, Lot 208, Unit E, in the amount of $25,432,400.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 72, Lot 209, Unit E, in the amount of $32,602,900.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 83, Lot 1, Unit E, in the amount of $26,153,300.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I move to approve an educational exemption for MAP 83, Lot 87, in the amount of $973,500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 62, Lot 90, in the amount of $684,100.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 83, Lot 60, in the amount of $2,735,900.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 91, Lot 32, Unit E, in the amount of $2,278,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 72, Lot 222, in the amount of $531,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 72, Lot 222, Unit E, in the amount of $516,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 73, Lot 143, in the amount of $628,700.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 29, Lot 26, in the amount of $378,700.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 29, Lot 21, Unit E, in the amount of $1,351,500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 95, Lot 61 in the amount of $575,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 72, Lot 166 in the amount of $1,117,600.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I move to approve a religious exemption for MAP 91, Lot 35, Unit E, in the amount of $1,188,700.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes, no kidding, wow.
Yes,
And thank you
take a
for-
water break.
Thank you for letting me look over your shoulder, because I didn't realize I was missing those pages too.
Thank you.
Packet issues.
Mr. Bisson, I am so sorry. I forgot you were sitting there. I should have had you go first.
No. I'll be quick.
Brevity is always one of your strengths.
Yes, thank you. There is a memo in your packet that didn't have a little explanation. I do have.
Cold. It's hard to hear for me too, so thank you. Air conditioner.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we do. You can understand.
Yeah, can we do the pickleball first?
As you previously had already authorized us to regrade the infields at the recreation park.
Your request was not granted.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
I like to go in order. When we got into the project, we discovered the turf around the lip of the infield was worse condition. We had to replace it. My two guys, Jason Bastine, our foreman, and Scott Thomas, our laborer, tried their hardest, but we started doing the renovations on the hot streak of 85 degrees back-to-back days. Wasn't very good. So we had to call in additional troops to actually remove 3 to 6 inches of sod and then replace it. So I'm asking for approval from the Park Improvement Fund of $1,900 from Tuckahoe Turf, the provider of turf for Fenway Park, and then $3,800 the motion's missing, to pay Yeti Land Care. They were able to provide some manual labor to actually remove the sod and help lay the sod for us so we wouldn't lose it. When you get sod, you have 24 hours to put it down, so we had to scramble quite a bit. But if you've been up to the fields, they look tremendous.
They do.
The 2 weeks of rain definitely helped the sod, and you can see the color difference because it's bluegrass around the perimeter, not a rye bluegrass mix.
It looks good. Any questions or comments for Mr. Bisson?
Just how much money's in the fund to begin with?
$19,720.61.
Okay, you answered me quicker than I could get my pen to paper. Say that again, please.
$19,720.65. That's taken into account the $25,000 we pledged for the grant that we have not yet heard from, so.
Is that all?
This is out of the 100,000?
Yep.
So there's be 19,000 left?
Yes.
Well, you're encumbering 25,000 in anticipation of the
In
grant.
anticipation of getting it, yes.
Yes.
That's correct.
You've been really on the ball for spending that money. Does that $19,722 include the money you're requesting tonight? Or no?
that's-
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Okay.
That's what's left over after.
Nope, got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
So afterwards, you'll be south of 15.
No, sorry. No, to answer your question, that's after you've spent it, so it's.
It's anticipating these.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good question. Geez, that went fast. At 100,000. Okay. I'd entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Rec Department to expend $1,900 from the Park Improvement Fund to purchase sod from Tuckahoe Turf, and further to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend $3,800 from the Park Improvement Fund to contract Yeti Land Care for the removal of old sod and installation of the new sod.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Pickleball.
Pickleball. Last year, the board approved purchasing, I now call them heavy-duty nets, because when we called them semi-permanent, they tend to migrate. People will move them. They moved them from upper to lower to lower to upper. They will move them.
Sure, that caused some controversy?
Yeah, the popularity of the of pickleball, last year we had 180 people total. That's including all year and every session. We had 3 sessions. This year we had 189 for all summer long, and we had to cap it. And we have 100 people on the wait list. So this is just an alternative to have up there in the upper courts. We would set up when our program for pickleball was going on, and then we'd take it back down and move it, unless there's demand for it. So this would come out of the rec revolving fund, and it would pretty much pay for ourselves once we keep going with the pickleball.
You go ahead, and I have a question.
Well, wait a second. So these folks, these pickleball players, they move our nets without talking to you?
We don't know who's moved the nets.
It's a mystery.
It is a mystery.
They haven't removed them, though. They're just moving them around?
Just rolling them because they're on wheels.
Does that create wear and tear?
Nope.
Just controversy.
Just controversy.
So,
So these heavy-duty ones?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
While you're entertaining the $4,800 request, I did want to point out, too, that Greg and I have had some preliminary conversations about security cameras at the courts, and I don't, not to go veer completely off topic, because I think it's kind of on topic with what we're talking about.
I think it's a necessity, given all of the feedback that we get continuously, verbally and in writing. That
was one of the things that I wanted to raise tonight with you as a concept, because we talked about there's a request actually for, I think it's $6,800, Craig?
$6,800, yep.
To install monitoring cameras at the courts.
And it would be, once we get up to 10 Hampton Road, we can almost instantaneously get down there if we see an incident, as well as record it and live stream it on the website so people can see if the courts are being used.
All kidding aside, unfortunately, a lot of allegations are made back and forth, and I think that it would be a good investment, to be honest. Not tonight. I know it's not before us tonight, but I think that's something.
And Andy Swanson and I have been going back and forth how to best execute it.
They're rogues. These folks are rogues.
Oh, Dan.
Mr. Chartrand.
I kind of heard about this while I was in retirement, but...
This is, and I don't want to hold you up. However, we should note that the 180 participants that you've capped are paying a $15 annual
fee to participate in our Pick Up Pickleball program.
And there's a waiting list of 100. So of these 280 folks, roughly, how many of them live in Exeter?
It's about 50-50.
And is there a fee for a resident versus a non-resident?
This year we didn't institute it because we never had this problem last year, Dan.
Oh, you never filled up?
We never filled up like this. This was shocking. We are seeing an onslaught from different organizations that are running literally pickleball clinics, and they're pumping out 20 to 30 new players per month, and they're all looking to play. So next year we're going to be reinstituting and working, reformatting to possibly a higher differential for non-residents.
Between resident and non-resident.
Yes.
So the controversy is you have folks that have a desire to come to Exeter to use our courts, but we have folks that live in Exeter and pay taxes in Exeter that aspire to use the courts for other things other than pickleball. And I think that you should reconsider next year your fee schedule. I think the cameras are a really good idea to sort of help you referee some controversy.
And I'm actually attending a webinar on Thursday, Peace and Love Between Pickleball and Tennis. Yes, it's a national thing, and I actually had a long conversation with the superintendent from Nashua today, because we're talking about other facility use. And so, I mean...
See, I'm surprised that just because there's a new facility that opened up in Rye on Route 1 on Breakfast Hill. So I wondered if that was going to help. It hasn't.
Does it cost more than $15 a year?
Yes. Yes. And if you saw a CNN article, they're finding good usage for malls now.
Yeah.
They're going to be putting them in Bed Bath & Beyond.
I'll refer you to the Washington Post last week. You can go find the article, but there's a interesting article in the Post.
Really good idea.
Housing, those malls.
Anyway, but we're not here to debate that this evening. So, any questions about these heavy-duty nets, Mr. Director? Are you satisfied with? Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Then I would entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend at most $4,800 out of the Recreation Revolving Fund to purchase a set of heavy-duty pickleball nets from Pioneer Athletics.
So moved.
I guess I have to
Second.
Thank you.
I think Julie seconded.
I seconded.
There was a motion.
So you're saved. Julie did it.
By Selectwoman Belanger, second by Selectwoman Gilman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank
So
you,
we'll
Greg.
hold back from you before next year on some new plans.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a whole...
I bet you'll be back this summer.
I'm hoping to be back in by June and tell you about some other programs, tennis programs.
Excellent.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
And thank you for sitting with us.
Thanks, Greg.
Peace and love. And pickleball.
Tom Brady buying a pickleball team.
We should have.
The Rogues.
Why not? Mr. Dean.
Okay, so first thing I wanted to say is thank you to Joanna for filling in last week while Pam was on vacation. She did a great
Yes.
job for us.
Always. Thank you, Joanna.
And she was super, so really appreciate her stepping up to the plate for that. A reminder that we're out doing crosswalks with the highway department right now, so just reminding people to drive carefully and slowly around our personnel. We appreciate you taking an eye out for them and making their job easier. The one item of interest that we've received is there are a few people that have contacted, I believe the board as well, about volunteering for a committee for the future of Swayze.
Yeah.
So that is in the offing and still needs to be vetted more fully, but I just wanted to put that back on the plate.
Okay.
We are working on our bonding. We're getting closer to our bond issuance, so you should see something in a very short time as far as the documents for the bond issuance. We have a call on Wednesday to confirm the proceeds and what we'll plan to use those for. The town hall assessment contracts are signed, and those went out to Tony Calandrello today. So Tony has the contracts, and the Arcove, the company that's going to do the project, is getting ready to start with that. We got some really good feedback from the speed limit monitor that the police department put out on Front and School Streets. So if you've driven by it, you know that speed in that corridor has been raised as a concern, and they were responsive to that, and it seems to have had a good effect in that area. So thank you to the police department for being proactive on that.
Yes, thank you. I live in that area.
Yeah.
It's awful.
The West Side Drive neighborhood meeting, just a reminder that is tomorrow. So if you're interested, you can click a link on the website and join, and it's
That's a virtual meeting, correct?
virtual meeting, correct? Yes. Also, it is tax deed time, so just to let the board know that that will be forthcoming, the list of tax deeds. What our plan is to send you the list via email. We will send it out so you have a chance to review it in advance. And then we'll have to have a meeting about next steps and the deeding process. It's something we have to do by statute, so there's a list. The Memorial Day Parade update you would ask me about, so just to reconfirm what we were talking about before, basically the parade is going forward as I understand it. There are some additional costs this year with police details. I wanted to pass that along and let you know. In the past, it's been I think a volunteer effort, and I think it's just volunteers are harder to come by, and it's paying the cost of doing business. So that's going to overspend the Veterans Activities budget by about $400. So we'll find the money in the budget somewhere and make it work. And then we'll have to adjust the budget for FY24, obviously.
I'm sorry, can you also next Monday find out from the parade organizers where the select board is to meet for those that want to march?
Yes. Okay. Couple of public works updates. The paving, Linden Street structure adjustments are the beginning of May. The latter part of May, they'll go to Salem Street area. And so those are the paving updates. The intersection program, we're working on a design contract for the roundabout right now at Pine Front and Linden. We're also working with Severino Construction on a possible contract via VHB on the Epping Road near-term design. That would be a TIF endeavor. So when that comes to fruition, you'll see a contract for that, a proposal. The Watershed Assistance Grant, the Kids Park BMP, according to Interim Director Vlasic, has groundwater and construction cost increase concerns. So that is something that's being reevaluated. I know you've heard something about that in the past as far as stormwater projects go. The street marking I mentioned, Linden Street and the Exeter River Bridge, right now we're working on a Wright Pierce revising their contract, and we're looking to potentially complete the work this year. And I believe those are the highlights I wanted to touch on tonight.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Mr. Dean? Great. Select Board Committee reports. Selectwoman Blanchard. Excuse me.
So I'm handing out something that we don't need to go over tonight. The highlight was something I already discussed for number 6. So if anybody has any questions on that document and would like to email me, I will happily address them at our meeting next Monday. It's just our recommendations and where each one stands. Our town planner did the update for us. So just so you all have it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
So the Housing Advisory Committee we had a work session on May 4th, and it was with Lindsay Sonnet, the chair, myself, Dave Sharples, and Victoria Healy from Rockingham Planning Commission. And we just went over the report and whether it needed to be completely updated, data updated, or what next steps we might want to take. So when we had our meeting the next morning, we're really going to just go through number 6 to get those numbers and have a discussion for exemptions, and then we'll go from there. But we've decided that right now, with all of the other assessments and data available, we're probably not going to completely redo the report. And the handout I gave you literally goes through what we've done for each recommendation. So then Nick Taylor, the director of Workforce Housing Coalition, gave us some legislative update and let us know that the New Hampshire Zoning Atlas is going to be available, and I did a webinar on that, but haven't gotten the actual atlas itself. It's just going to be a new tool to use for different housing options and how to get there. We were going on a field trip for our next meeting to Dover to John and Maggie Randolph's project. They're from Exeter, and they have a project that they've done in Durham and Dover. We were going to go to the Dover one. We decided to postpone that till September to work on number 6, and I actually ran into them Tuesday night at a Rockingham Planning Commission meeting. And when Gwen English at the planning board did her update, because she's a rep, there was a lot of excitement expressed, so I extended the field trip to the planning board, so we might have a dual field trip, and I have to talk to you, because I want to make sure that legally we can do a field trip.
Okay.
Yeah, a little late in asking that question, but at least I have till September to get the answer, so. And then Darren Wyndham talked about wastewater system alternatives. That can be found on page 135 of the New Hampshire Housing Toolbox. So Darren and Dave Sharples are going to attend an informal meeting and report back to the Housing Advisory Committee on June 9th on the possibilities of that, and which is our next meeting. I attended on May 9th. That morning, I attended a Seacoast Regional Emergency Preparedness Response Coordination meeting at Unitil in Exeter. While I was listening to everything that they go through for emergencies in the winter with power outages, I spoke with our Assistant Fire Chief on the way out, Justin Pizon, about the possibilities of doing an update once or twice a year to the Select Board on that process, so that people had that in their back of their mind. And he thought it was a great idea, and then we kind of brainstormed a little bit. So he was going to talk to Jason about doing a Did You Know post. So, and it's in the work in progress, and he was going to get back to me with the status on that. Okay. After that meeting on that same day, I attended the downtown parking, traffic and pedestrian analysis. I sat in with Dave Sharples it was an in-person, non-mandatory proposal meeting to go over the request for proposals in the scope of the work for the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, which I am now going to be on the interview committee for. It was a fascinating process. That was the first time for me, so I was pretty excited. And then, let's see, that night was also, I think I moved that in the wrong place. Yeah, so that night I came back and did a Conservation Commission meeting. They talked about the Alewife Committee, the work being done on that, which was wonderful, and the chair, Andrew Koff, just sent an email. Big shout out to Kristen for organizing the Alewife Festival on Saturday. Great event, weather, activities, good turnout. And I will say, as a side note, it's the first time I actually did an event with the Conservation Commission, and it was just amazing to watch how well they all work together outside of their meeting. You know what I mean? It was, God, the teamwork was incredible, and they did a great job. So, Conservation Commission deed that's going to come back to the Select Board, that's associated with the Carlisle subdivision of Watson Road, 76 acres. There was some discussion about whether or not to allow hunting because of the 7 vernal pools. Don Clement had proposed a motion that failed, so because there was some concerns about maintaining, enforcing, things like that. The winners of the Pollinator Pathways Stepping Stone Seed Kit, there were 8 winners. Congratulations to them, everyone. The Alewife Festival, again, was a great success. I was glad to have been there. There's SST cleanup at the Morrisette Trails. May 10th, ticks are out there, so everyone beware. Exeter High School Trail Day. It's going to be on Saturday, June 3rd. The Environmental Club is going to hold a Trail Care Day on the high school easement. It's going to be from mid-morning to mid-afternoon. Rains barn repairs are going well. Kristen has applied for a Moose Plate grant for $20,000 to help with the cost of the repairs. Those repairs. They voted to recommend to the Select Board to renew the Rains lease for haying for another 5 years. Trails are in great shape. There's a June 4th orientation event coming up from 10 to noon to learn how to navigate using maps and compasses. Details are on the website. I won't talk about the tree committee. And I thought this was great. Kristen Murphy was invited to Ipswich, Mass. to talk about our dam removal project and the process that we went through. And it was on their ballot, and they voted to work on removing their dam.
Wow.
And Kristen was very excited to be part of the conversation on that. So it was their Article 14, and it passed 314 to 144. Planning Board was May 11th. The election of the officers happened. Status quo, Lang Plummer's the chair, Aaron Brown vice chair, Pete Cameron clerk. And we had our second in series, part of Dave Sharples and the zoning conversation we're having. So part one was benefits of underdeveloped land. Part two was the benefits of developed land, housing, jobs, mobility, goods and services, vibrant economy, tax base, and emotions, which were security and hope. And I skipped one thing because I put it in the wrong. Oh, and I attended the Rockingham Planning Commission meeting on May 10th for municipal officials. It was in Stratham. I ended up leaving early, so I have to watch the rest of the meeting, but I did get to hear Maggie and John Randolph's presentation. Fascinating. So I look forward to giving an update on that, and I'm done.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Selectwoman Gilman.
Wow. Thank you, Nancy.
No, I don't know how I keep getting these long reports. Sorry, guys.
No, the only meeting I had was with the Arts Advisory Commission, Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, where we talked about several different ideas, and we're trying to prioritize, low-picking fruit. Low-hanging fruit, thank you. Low-picking. There's the painting sidewalks, inviting artists or schools or to pick a portion of the sidewalks along Front Street. There's also, the chairs. It's a good one. They've gotten a lot of donations already going through the Parks Department to pay for new chairs. There's also interest in a sculpture in Townhouse Common, and I was not clear on where that is at as far as the procedure. Mm-hmm. But there's a sculptor and members of the Arts Committee and Parks and Rec that are discussing this, so eventually it will come to us. I would seek your advice in when I should intercede in the process, or if I should.
Well, what exactly are they looking for?
They have a sculptor in mind who, I don't know who approached who, if the sculptor was first or the committee was first.
Yeah.
It's a sculpture to be put up on the same edge by the parking lot as the pavilion is now. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be, or proposed to be, an alewife.
Huh?
So we'll see it, I suppose. I don't know when. Okay. And then there was a lot of talk about murals, and that the town needs more artwork downtown, and just tossed around where they could go. Can we do it? What materials would we use? Whose property can we do? We can't use anybody's property without their permission, so that's going to be a continuing conversation, and that was it.
Okay, thank you. Selectwoman Cowan.
Sure. I had one advisory committee meeting. We had the Rec Advisory Committee meeting. We spoke about some pickleball issues and tennis issues that you heard about. We spoke about the AARP age-friendly community, which the board voted unanimously to recommend. Other things that were on the agenda were field rental and what we can do to make sure that we are not having competing teams and out-of-town teams versus in-town teams, and all of that needs to be discussed. So it was a great meeting, lots of participation. I had to be on Zoom, but we made it work.
Excellent.
And then I am not going to be in town, and I'm not available for the next Rec Advisory Committee meeting. Nancy, I've already put on the calendar for you the Communications Advisory Committee meeting, but the next Rec Advisory meeting, which I will not be able to be at, is, I believe, on the 30th.
May 30th?
Yes, at 7.
I could do that.
Thanks.
Oops, I'm in the wrong month.
You got it? You sure? All right.
Yep.
If you can't, just let me know. I don't have
Yes,
a
I
meeting
am.
that night, so I'll be your backup.
Yep, no, you'll double backup.
Hey, you never know.
I will be out of town for work.
What time does it, at 7?
Yeah, 7.
Thank you.
Thank you. Selectman Chartran.
I did have a meeting with the Sustainability Committee on May 2nd. They will be here next week with their suggestions for adopting specific measures to follow on the voters' passing of the single-use plastics citizens petition. In addition to that, they are doing some great work on sort of analyzing where we can do better in terms of our recycling and waste streams. There was discussion of covering our cardboard recycling area because that is starting to have more value again. And when it rains, it's ruined and we get no value from it. Mm-hmm. So I encourage them to work with Jay Perkins to put a proposal together for the budget recommendation process so that we could maybe cover that, that area and realize the value of the cardboard recycling that's happening out at the transfer station. They're also putting together a proposal for another water station in Swayze Parkway, and I know there's all kinds of angles on that, but we now have one in Townhouse Commons.
Yep.
And I encourage them to put that proposal together as well, so that could go into the budget recommendation process also.
So Kristen Murphy last year came to the Swayze Park trustee meeting to talk about that. This was prior to this was when they were first introducing the ordinance to the select board, so sometime in late fall. Trustees were very interested in putting in a water filling station. However, they asked Kristen for certain things that she was going to look into and get back. It wasn't information she would have readily available. It was more about cost, where would we put it? How would we pay for the water? The trustees. So she's already made the inroads with the trustees, and they're sort of kind of waiting for her to get back. So
good to know.
Yeah.
I encourage them, again, to, these are great projects, relatively low dollar, that could have, impacts. And I said, be part of the process.
Right.
I encourage them to really engage with the rest of town government.
Thank you.
And it was a good meeting. Great group. They're hardworking. They're very creative. And I'm enjoying working with them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
May 9th, I had a tree committee meeting, and they spent half the time talking about their table that they had at the Alewife Festival, and also working on, because we're part of Tree City USA and an Arbor Tree City, we are the recipients of 3 trees that need to be planted by kids, participating with kids, so it's going to be at Lincoln Street School. Date to be determined. The chair is going to work that out with Lincoln Street, but obviously it needs to be done between now and the end of school. But we get the 3 trees, we get all of the soil and anything else we need, and the rec department's going to work on diapers.
It's so much fun with the kids getting involved.
It's a lot of fun, and I have to say, the tree committee, when you look at their agenda, there's a lot on there. They do an awful lot, very quickly and very quietly, but they are very dedicated and do. It's an exciting It's
They
an
were
exciting
there and
hour to
ready to
spend
go
once a month
at the-
on Tuesday.
Yep, they were there and ready to go at the Ally Festival with their
bet.
table.
I bet, so. Okay, correspondence, we had a resident that communicated back and forth with me about Kingston Road. And we have a memo from...
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Your response to that email was, like, that should be framed as an example of how to respond to a constituent. It's really well done.
Thank you, Mr. Sharpton. It's getting late, isn't it? I appreciate it.
No, it's really well done.
Thank you. United States Department of Transportation, public notice of availability, FAA instrument flight procedures, low-level helicopter system, and Mr. Dean, you had an email exchange with President of the Coalition Against Bigger Trucks?
Yes. So this is just looking at some different legislation that's in the coming months, going to be in the T&I committee. Congressman Pappas is actually part of that committee, and they have had, I will actually forward along to you an updated email that I got today from the group asking for our support to go against legislation that creates more and more larger trucks on the freeways and highways.
Okay. Letter of appreciation for continued support from Waypoint. Notice of a special meeting at the membership of the CPCNH. Yes. And we have a letter from the New Hampshire Local Welfare Administrators Association regarding the support of SB 110. The NHMA Legislative Bulletin, and I believe that's it. Last on our agenda, we have no non-public this evening. Board calendar, May 22nd, next Monday, June 5th, June 26th, and I'd like the board, we discussed this at our last meeting, to pencil in June 12th. We have two holidays, we have Memorial Day and we have Juneteenth, and then we have the 4th of July. So as we discussed, the June 12th may be necessary if we have a lot of agenda items. So let's pencil it in.
That's already there.
Yeah, I already have
Yeah,
it.
but if it's not,
Yeah, the original every 2 weeks, so it's there. I'll put a question mark, how's that?
but Mr. Dean, let's use our discretion if we feel we need to. I know we have an awful lot coming up, that's why I wanted it in there.
Okay.
So the board could plan on it, but if we can tackle everything in the other 3 dates, that's great too. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We're meeting on the 22nd?
yes,
And then the 5th?
June
Yeah.
5th,
And then the
Got it.
12th, maybe.
And then the following
the
week?
26th.
And the 26th
Yep.
as well? So
Just
the 12th and the 26th?
Yes, the 19th is a holiday.
Got it. Okay.
I guess that's all we have this evening. If there's nothing else, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye, opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you and good night, everyone.
I knew it.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or